Mayhem family, welcome. We are back with the Mayhem Athlete podcast. More importantly, we have a very special lady here, and she is back in a big way. 23 years old, and in that time, she has managed to appear at the CrossFit Games 8 times, including 3 as a teenager. Always finished in the top 10, 9th or better, as a matter of fact. But most recently, this past year, she has continued to just take her inspiration up another level by sharing her trials, tribulations, and really ultimately her success. And Haley, that's a really long interview, or a really long introduction, but I'm really, really happy that you're here in Mayhem, in competition, and here today that I get to talk to you.
It's definitely a long overdue conversation, and I'm really happy to be back and just reflecting on this year and the past years, and yeah, it's been good.
Yeah, there's so much that I don't know where to start. But it feels like we can't start with the end because there's what came before, yeah. Right? But what really jumped off the screen in your day in the life, and I've heard you in a couple of interviews now say it, is I'm not rebuilt, I'm new. Or I'm probably paraphrasing incorrectly, but something to that effect. And so I guess that is the one place that I'd like to start, and then we can go backwards. Is how are you really?
Honestly, this has been the most life-changing year or past 2 years of my life. I had to get rid of a lot of bad habits, and that meant going through some really hard things. But we're through that now, and honestly, I've had, again, the best year, and I'm surrounded by some really cool people. I've met a lot of people this year, and yeah, life is so good right now, and it was worth going through the dark days to get here.
100%. Well, and spoiler alert, because I'm like 20 years older than you, there'll be more to come, right?
I'm
So
sure.
We'll also talk about like the tools that you've kind of built up that you can use. But I don't know, where in your mind when you think about this, so if we're going back now, freshman in high school or 14 years old, right? You started CrossFit very soon thereafter in the limelight. But do you think if you could go back and talk to yourself then, maybe you could have avoided some of this, or is there stuff that came before? Where do you think that kind of like the difficulties that manifested in 2023 ultimately started for you?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been like a competitive person. That's just who I am. And when I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it with everything that I have. So I've had that trait since I was young. So just starting off in CrossFit, like I'd never had that like easy transition phase. Like I made the games as a teenager, like basically within 2 months of starting CrossFit. So it was just basically full throttle nonstop till basically last year. So year after year, that just kind of added up, and I started to put more and more pressure on myself, and I just kind of lost the reason why I even wanted to compete in the first place, and it all just became about a number to me, and that was it. And when you don't hit that number or you fail, like that's all you have, like that's your identity. So I got really, really wrapped up in that and cared way too much about what people thought about me, and just so much pressure, and it just was honestly crippling. And it took all of that to realize, like, this isn't what life is about. Like, life is so much bigger than CrossFit. And yeah, like I had to take a step back, and now I'm very comfortable and confident with why I love CrossFit and why I compete again and why I'm here. And yeah, it took all of that to understand this.
Yeah.
Why I love it.
Well, and for perspective for people that maybe are new fans or weren't around then, like really when you started and you were super successful as a teenager, that was almost, you could argue in some ways that was the zenith of CrossFit, because there was live television, there was huge media coverage, and there was a lot of, and you've ridden the wave through there for ups and downs, but there was so much attention, right? Social media was arguably kind of hitting its stride as well, like getting bigger and stuff. So when you say pressure, I guess, I think about those are such formative years for anybody.
Yeah.
It's hard to be a celebrity no matter what age you are. True story. And then there's that kind of social media component. But like, yeah, going back to your teenage years, at first, did you just love it, or immediately were you like, holy cow, there's a lot of pressure? Did you feel it early on?
At first I really enjoyed it, especially my first year at regionals when I was like 16, like, and I had this attention that I never had before. I was like, oh wait, this is kind of cool. And like, cause people were just so happy for me, and like, oh wow, there's a 16-year-old at regionals. So at first I did really enjoy it. But then as time went on, it's hard to have like eyes on you and watching every single thing that you do, or judging you, or even just like a personal life. So yeah, just that kind of added on to the pressure, just because, you know, people would be like, oh, Haley's going to podium this year, or this or that. And I'm like, well, if I don't, these people are going to think that I suck. And so I just like made up all these lies in my head. But social media, even now, is just, it's a really scary place. And I mean, that's for a different topic, but yeah.
Well, hopefully we get into it later. Cause
yeah.
I mean, I think the cool thing about these conversations is like, we have more time to unpack.
Yeah.
And I think it's so much more valuable. I say this way too much, but the truth of it is like, we all love you for the superhuman stuff, but ultimately the inspiration really comes from the very human. So like, I think your bravery through sharing your story has inspired people more than what you've done on the competition floor. So hopefully we get into that, but I'm sorry I interrupted.
No. I mean, yeah, it added pressure because I'm like, I have all these people that are watching me just because I got this placement, and I'd never understood that they actually liked me for me. I thought it was just because I could place top 10 or at the CrossFit Games or whatever, you know, like I had a really hard time, and that went into my personal life too. Like I had a hard time believing that anyone would want to be friends with me or whatever, just because I, you know, wasn't who I was or the athlete or the following that I had. So I had to really work on that too.
When was it, can you put your finger on like the first time where you were like, wow, this isn't all sunshine and rainbows like this? Or
I think around 2020 or 2021, like just, you know, I had more of a following then, and just people can be really mean on the internet. And I know you shouldn't read it, but like I'm a young girl at this point. Like of course I'm reading it, you know? So just dealing with that and, you know, all the things that come with it, and just the pressure again, just, yeah, and caring too much about what people think.
So it was a lot less the quantity of working out or like the actual physical strain of the CrossFit Games wasn't really as much it was more about the mental stress of trying to live up to.
Anyone here, especially that knew me a few years ago, knows that I literally would work out all day long. Like it wasn't the physical side of it.
You tried to break the whoop strap.
I was like, if I'm not getting a 20 strain every day, I'm quitting. But no, it was never the physical part for me. I mean, of course my body hurt, but I would work out all day long. I would argue that I was probably doing the most volume out of anyone. But that I would do that to escape like mental things as well. Like if I'm working out, I'm not thinking about things. Like I'm not thinking about, you know, not getting top 5 at the games. I'm not thinking about doing bad or not being able to lift this way. Like working out was almost like therapy too, which was not good because I was working out too much, but that's what I used it as.
It is. I mean, I think that most people would argue, whether you're just an hour in a class every day or whatever, like I think they would probably agree with that, right?
Yeah.
Like it's almost like a moving meditation. Most people use it as therapy. But when it becomes 7 hours, 8 hours a day.
Yeah, I was abusing it, but it was just like to escape something else, you know? So, and that's not good either.
It's interesting for me to hear, though, that like from whistle to whistle or bell to bell or whatever, like when you're working out, those thoughts are gone.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people in the middle of it.
I just put on some music, my sad girl stuff, and I would just go ham and just work out after workout after workout. Because it's like when you stop, that's when like, you know, when you lay down at night and you have all the thoughts in your head that just come out of nowhere. It's like that. Like as soon as I would stop working out, I felt like I would get in my head again and just get all upset. So working out was like therapy.
And during that time, were you kind of trying to address it, or was it like, you know, I'm just going to bury myself in workouts and keep going?
There were a few times I'd be like, maybe I should, you know, like get some help or just try to figure this out, because I was just miserable, especially in 2022. I was miserable all the time. But I just kept pushing it and pushing it and pushing it. I was like, no, it's fine. Just like, don't be soft. Just keep going. And obviously you can only run from it for so long, and that's why I'd take last year off. But for the majority of the year, I just pushed it away.
Yeah. How did it, and you're driving this ship, so anything that's out of bounds, you just let me know. How did it manifest with your eating? Because I know that that's a big deal, and I think that that's something, again, I know that probably hundreds, if not thousands of people have reached out to you about it, but I think it's just such a valuable piece of information to kind of unpack. Yeah,
so, I mean, those are kind of two different paths that end up colliding, but ever since I was a bit younger, I started counting macros when I started, so 14 years old. I was a freshman in high school, bringing my weighed food to lunch. Like, that is so sad.
And because you were doing CrossFit, you kind of like learned about that?
And you know, like that's very popular in the CrossFit community, so I thought I was doing the right thing. So I became very obsessed with my eating at a young age, and that just ended up intensifying. And then it kind of just became its own thing where I literally thought I was fat all the time. I would restrict calories and lie about it. I was not. I still to this day do not know how my body was like working the way it did for so many years. But yeah, I just had some very bad body image issues I was using working out as like therapy. I discovered like the use of laxatives pretty early, so I'd struggle with that for a while too. So just all of those things, and I would almost use it as punishment, like, oh, you go to bed hungry, like that's good, like you're tough, you know what I mean?
Oh, wow.
So just stuff like that. And so then between the storm of the working out and overtraining and pressure, and then this other storm, like I just couldn't get over the fact of like I wanted to be the smallest, you know, like when people would say that about me, like, oh, she's the smallest one out there, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, that literally feeds it. Like, I'm like, oh, yes, I'm the smallest one out there. Like, thank good. You know what I mean?
100%.
That's why I'm always like, you should never comment on people's bodies because you don't know, like, what that does.
Even with seemingly good intentions, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
But for a while, I couldn't get over the fact of, like, I wanted to look a certain way and weigh a certain thing to be the best athlete that I could be. Like, I just could not ever get over that hump. Because I was just struggling with so many other things, you know, outside of the gym as well. So it was just like so much going on at one time that I really kept to myself. I mean, obviously people notice, but it's like, what do you say to someone that just like dropped 10 pounds in a month? You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like, what do you say?
Sure.
So
Sure.
just so much stuff that just on one thing after the other that led to here. So.
And I think to your point about, you know, what can people say? I know, you and Tasia, you could talk about that relationship. I'd love to hear. Has been a massive support throughout the course of your life. But even people here like love you, but they're not doctors or they're not. They just don't maybe without physically restraining you and saying like, hey, you got to do something different here. Yeah. It's a really razor wire to kind of walk, right?
Yeah.
Just for me personally, what really, I think for people to understand, hey, how far down where did this go? How bad did this get? You said 2020 was a bad year.
Yeah.
Are you comfortable sharing like your physical state in 2020 when you took 4th place at the CrossFit Games?
Well, I'd say honestly, it didn't start until maybe after that.
Okay.
Like I started to get pretty tough on myself because I just missed out on a podium spot by like one placing. I was 4th, but it was really close. So I think I really started to feel pressure going into the next year because I'm like, oh my God, it was so close. Like I have to get on the podium next year or like I suck, you know? So I just started battling with that, and my eating issues were by far the worst in 2021. And then the pressure started, and yeah, like I said, you just kind of use one as like a coping mechanism. Like when one's really bad, the other one's really bad, and it's just a storm.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can definitely remember 2021 as being by far the worst year.
Physically and mentally?
Yeah, physically and mentally, because I'd gotten 5th that year too. But just like the lead up to the games that year, I was really struggling with eating at that point. Like I think that might have been the smallest I've ever competed at. Yeah, but just the mental side of it too. Because I just wanted to be on the podium, you know, that's all I wanted. I thought that's all that mattered.
Yeah.
And so when that didn't happen is when things got really, really bad, like mentally as well. So.
And it's funny because it's almost in your mind, you probably knew I'm not as strong as I want to be, but in order to be, I would have to change my body.
Yeah.
But there's just like not a willing to. So it's almost like a blessing and a curse that you are so fit.
Yeah.
That these are top 5 finishes, 6th place.
That's why like I say I think I was meant to do this, because there's no way that my body held up the way it did, the way I was treating it, and like nothing bad happened. I don't have any long-term effects of it. Like I seriously do not know how I competed the way I did, because I was terrible to myself.
Mind blowing.
Literally terrible.
Right. And then
and you could see it. Like compared now, like what I look like competing this year versus years ago or 2 years ago, like it's so visible.
Yes.
Like just the way I look, my face, like all of it.
Even like post-workout, right? Like being just destroyed beyond like, oh my gosh, she almost looks like me after a workout. Like that's not supposed to be Haley. What's going on? Yeah. There's a crazy difference in that. One more thing you mentioned that stood out. You said, for example, like you were lying about it.
Yeah.
So tell me what that means. I mean, I know what that means at surface value, but like, I think that's probably an interesting.
Yeah. So it's like, I mean, I had a nutritionist, and, you know, he'd check in or whatever. And he's a great guy, but I would put extra things in my food log to be like, oh yeah, I ate this, blah, blah, blah. Or like, you know, post things that I wasn't really eating or acting like I was eating all this food when I obviously was not. Which I'm very embarrassed of, but I think that's being vulnerable and, you know, maybe giving other people strength to not do that, because there's a ton of people who do it for sure. Yeah, I would just say that I was eating things that I wasn't, or, you know, so people wouldn't worry as well, you know. Like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm eating all this food and it's fine, but it's like, are you though? Because you're getting small. But yeah, just trying to hide it because it's embarrassing. Like, you don't want anyone to know. Like I don't know why my brain was wired like that, or why I felt the need to be so small, or weigh myself every day, or skip this meal, or this or that. But it just happened, and that's why I'm very passionate about, like, just trying to help younger girls, because I just want to be the girl that I needed at that age.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And I'm obviously not a doctor, and I don't want to make an incorrect comparison, but let's just say some like an alcoholic, you know, like somebody who thinks they can fix it on their own, but
Yeah.
it's a disease that comes back, and you have to actually get professional.
I like to think of it as like, I still have bad days. Like, there's definitely days I still struggle, but like, I'm never going to revert back to that. But it's like, you're always almost in recovery. Like, you're never like away from it, you know, like it's always a work in progress.
Yeah.
But like, I'm way past that now, but it's still okay to have bad days. And I've realized that.
Yeah. So. How did, cause I do know that coach, has a fantastic track record, and he's an amazing professional. How did he react? Like or I guess, how did that interaction happen? Was he one of the first people that you kind of came clean with, or?
Actually, the first people I came clean with were Tasia and AJ. I think they could tell something was going on with me, because, I mean, again, it's not hard to tell. So I ended up like going to the doctor, and they both knew what was
helped
going on.
You with the process and whatnot.
And both of them they still are two of the most important people in life. Like, they've been there for me through everything, and they seriously helped me get out of that, even though like I was so embarrassed and like didn't even want them to know, but they were so comforting and just wanted to be there and help. But then I started gradually like telling more people. Like, I opened up to my family, which they obviously already knew as well. But it's like, again, like, it's hard to like confront someone, you know, like, about something that you're not so sure about, but like you think something's going on. But I just slowly started to open up to more and more people in my life about what was going on, and just that I wanted to get better. And like, it almost felt like, too, the more people that you told, the more people that you were you're held accountable. So like, this person's, you know, watching me, I can't mess up. Like, I don't want to go backwards, you know, I don't want to disappoint them, but not in like the same pressure way, but like, they just want to help you. Like, you don't want to, you know, make them worried about you. So I just started to open up to more and more people, and he was one of them too. And, you know, I think initially everyone just feels kind of bad, but I'm like, I don't want anyone to feel bad. It's someone's fault, because I was so good at hiding it. But yeah, everyone was really supportive.
Yeah. But how difficult was that? Like, okay, so you've got Tasia and AJ, and there's, like you said, like, they're so close with you in terms of, you know, the time you spend together and the work that they do with you. So it was undeniable.
Yeah.
How difficult, though, was it to kind of rip that Band-Aid and maybe tell like the next person, and then?
Oh, it was so hard. And like I said, it's hard not to be embarrassed, because it's like, I'm supposed to be this elite level athlete that has it all together, and the nutrition's good, everything's good. And here I am on the side. Like, I can't even figure out how to eat correctly, or like just get out of my head. So it was very embarrassing. And I had to put that aside, and I had a lot of hard conversations, and I think a lot of people were just worried about me and just wanted me to be happy. But it was really, really hard.
Yeah. Was it hard to believe that part of it? Like, that, you know, because when you told people, were you surprised at their reaction? I guess I'll leave it at that.
I don't think no one was surprised. It wasn't hard to tell that something was
But were you
going
surprised
on.
that they were legitimately like, don't do the games if you don't want to do like, we need to get you healthy? Like, did that surprise you?
It kind of did, because I had made up so many lies in my head that, you know, they only wanted to be my friend, or they cared about me because I competed. Like, that was it.
Yeah.
You know, like, so I had all these stories made up, and it was just so far from the truth. Like, Haley, we just want you happy. Like, we just want you healthy. Like, obviously, like, everyone that had been around me at that time could tell that something was going on in all different areas. So, yeah, I think everyone just wanted me to be really happy. That was it.
I believe that to be true too. And even when their comments don't land, I think that fans are included in that.
Yeah, for sure.
So how tough was it then, or did it get easier and easier? Like, to make that, at some point you had to say, hey, listen, here's what's going on with me, which again, you didn't have to. I shouldn't say it that way. You chose to share with the world, like, hey, here's what I'm going through, which was crazy vulnerable, and that you're taking a year off of competition.
Yeah. I went back and forth for a long time whether I wanted to like go into detail, or like, hey, I'm just taking the year off, like, blah, blah, blah. Like, cause I think I decided back in January, like a for sure no. So I had like a month to try to figure out what I wanted to do. And then I finally decided like, no, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it right. And I want to be able to help someone else, even if that's one person, because again, I want to be the person that I needed, you know, when I was a young girl. So I was like, if this could just help one person, then I win, you know?
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm going to be vulnerable. I'm going to do it. And whatever happens, happens. I was terrified, terrified.
Just as you looked at that send button forever?
I was so scared because it was the day of the open.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I was so scared, but I've never gotten that much support and love on Instagram posts still to this day, because it was insane. Like I didn't even get a chance to read everything. Like I felt so much love. And even this past year, like the biggest compliment I got was like a mom or dad coming up to me like, oh my gosh, like we thank you for being inspiration to our young girl, like, you know, to take care of herself and just stuff like that. It's just like, I'm glad I did it.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, I love that. Well, continuing with that, which, because I can only imagine, I feel like the kind of echoes of that will be a massive part of your legacy one day, right? But what about the actual process, right? Because what we'll get to is I was super touched when you read that post a year later at the games, right?
Yeah.
What came in that 12 months, or like what really stands out that, because the story's amazing, right? But I think people also are wondering, they want to know tools. So it's like, what kind of jumps out as, yeah, these were like the major things that I had to focus on to make this happen?
Yeah. So it was definitely quite a process in all different areas, but I decided once I'd made that post and not to compete, I took myself out of CrossFit. I didn't really go to a CrossFit gym. I honestly didn't really work out much for a while. I traveled, I made new friends, I experienced all different kind of life experiences, and truly just got to live life that I hadn't got to live, or I didn't allow myself to, because I felt wrong, like that I was doing something wrong. So that was a big part of it, just experiencing life. But also just dealing with, you know, my emotions and learning how to control them, and realizing that it's okay to have bad days. That was a hard thing for me too, was learning that like, just because I'm having a bad day doesn't mean I'm like spiraling, you know, like we're human. It's okay to have bad days. So learning that. And also I just feel like I grew up. Like I never got to experience those things. And I just feel like I grew up 10 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just surrounding myself with good people and just living life and just finding my love for CrossFit again.
Was any of it like you followed a protocol or read a book, or it was professional help, or was it really just kind of relying on friends?
No, yeah, there was some professional help for sure. But also just relying on friends, having tough conversations, and people holding me accountable. And yeah, like I just got to feel all the things, good, bad, ugly. Yeah.
And because we know like there's no finish line, right? Like life is long, and again, like I said at the beginning, like spoiler alert, there's going to be more big hurdles you'll have to jump in your life.
Yeah.
Everybody does.
Yep.
But I wonder, when did you know in that process, or when did you feel confident? You're like, hey, I feel good about maybe coming back.
I don't remember the exact moment, but I mean, I took 9 months off of CrossFit. Like, I'm telling you, to do a muscle up. I think I did some squats in a global gym, but like I did not do CrossFit. I took 9 months off.
Yeah.
But I had started to I was back in Cookeville. I started to like train a little bit, going to the gym, started to do a little bit. And I was like, maybe, like, I don't know. But
just toe in the water. Yeah.
Like, just maybe, I don't know. But it also felt so far away, because as I'd started to do these things, like I'd been out living my life, you know, and not doing CrossFit, I felt so out of shape. Like I was out of body. I was like, actually, now physically, I'm not sure I can do this, because I was so out of shape. Like I'm talking 9 months off. I didn't have calluses on my hands, like nothing.
Like you were starting over.
Yeah, I was working out at Planet Fitness. Yeah. So that was a different part of the story that I didn't really get to talk much about, but that was so hard. It was humbling. Like I started
the coming back part, or the
one.
being of Planet Fitness part?
Coming back.
Oh, yeah.
Like it was October, I think. So October is when I like started to train again. And it was so hard. It took me all the way up till honestly semis to feel normal again. And I wasn't sure I was going to make the games, because it was so hard. the people at my gym in North Carolina can vouch for me. I failed my first bar muscle up that I tried. Failed it. I was that out of shape.
Don't be mad that I take a little bit of pleasure in that, right?
I failed it. I was doing
Wow.
like 5x5 back squats, like 165. Like I basically lost all my muscle, didn't have lungs either. So just that process from October to whenever semis, May to June, was so insanely humbling. Like I had to work so hard to get it back. And that process itself was just different than anything I had experienced before. But I haven't really talked about that. But safe to say, I don't think I'm going to take 9 months off again. But
Dude.
it was really hard.
Yeah. Well,
I didn't think I was even going to make the games.
let's dig into it because I love hearing about it. So where were you then? So you came back to Mayhem, and then in that October to semis period, did you decide, hey, this is when I need to be somewhere else?
Yeah. So obviously I moved to Cookeville when I was 17 years old, which is, 17 to 22 are like very crucial years, like you're growing, you're experiencing new things.
Or not,
Or not. But they're growing years, right? So you're just going through all different kinds of things. And I think just for a while, like the last year I was here, I just wanted to know what else was out there. Like I'd spent, again, 5 years here. I was like, what else is out there,
Yeah.
So I explored, I met some really cool people, and I went to Virginia to train. So I left Mayhem in October of last year.
Yep.
And I moved there until semi. So I did all my training there and getting back in shape. So no one here really got to see how out of shape I was, thank God. Or maybe they should have seen, because
You should post some videos.
I did find some the other day. It's just so bad. But yeah, I moved there to train until semis, and I really enjoyed my time there. And the gym there was great. Coaches were great. And it was just really what I needed to, experience something else and get out and see what else is out there. It's kind of like when you are so excited to leave your hometown because you're just like sick of it, and then you leave and you're kind of like, I kind of miss it, like you start to see what was there that you couldn't see before. And again, my mind when I was here was so clouded with so many other things that I thought that there was a lot of bad here. But that was just me in my head, and I was not thinking clearly. And as I'd spent time away, I'd realized that I actually did have a lot of friends here and a lot of people that did care about me. And my mind was very clouded. But yeah, I just started to grow to miss it. And yeah, I think time away for me was important, because I don't think if I left here this last year, I would never come back, Like I'd probably have just, went somewhere else and whatever. But it was very important for me. But then it just felt right after semis. I was like, I'm really missing it. It felt right to come back and train for the games like I'd always had. And Luke is one of my favorite training partners. I was like, I want to train with Luke. And I just had some other stuff, and yeah, so that's kind of the short story. There's obviously a lot more than that, but
I think it's still really insightful, right? Because there hasn't been a lot of time maybe to sit down and have long form conversation about it. But again, well-meaning folks who are really, because they're such a fan of you, right? Every little thing they're reading into, right? And I'm not even joking. Like, you post a picture of you eating pizza in New York, and it's like, well, she's moving to New York, and she's going to be with such and such. You're like, whoa, slow down. I'm just doing what I need to do.
I wanted it to be super low-key, because it wasn't, like, anything crazy. Like, there wasn't some big... Like,
you didn't get in a fist fight with Rich.
No, like... I mean, and of course, like, this was my home for 5 years. Like, I still value the way that they feel and the way they think of me and the way I speak about them, because, they've done a lot for me. And... yeah, but I really needed that time away. And anyone here will tell you that too. Now that I've come back, they're like, yeah, she needs to get away. And also, from the time that I left to the time I come back, I feel like a lot of things have changed here. Like, I met Dom.
Yes.
He is amazing.
100%.
Like, so amazing. So just in the way things are run are different. And yeah, like, I forever will love the early days in Cookeville, but I also really like the way things are run now too. So just meeting him and him coming back and helping me train for the games, and that was definitely one of the highlights of my summer. He's amazing. But yeah, I definitely needed to get away.
Yeah, well, and I'm laughing because, like, I talked about the eating pizza in New York, but, like, literally I would see your posts and I'd be pumping my fist because you're talking to a guy who like I put off growing up for years and years and years just to travel and do things, and love seeing you get that opportunity because you're not lying. Like you moved here when you were 17, but before that you were still training for the games.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so when you get to be Haley and be
literally
a person.
Nothing. Yeah. This is where I spent all my time, which I don't mind it now. Like I'm so happy to be back. I love my house. One of my best friends is here. I have so many friends now at the gym. Like I hope people think I'm more enjoyable to be around than I was, because I was scared when I came back because I was like, guys, I swear I'm different. I'm not like, I wasn't mean. I just like, you could just tell I was just not a happy person. And like, I definitely acted ways that I wish I wouldn't have. But you know, I was going through something, but I was just like scared that people were going to think I was going to act crazy. And I'm like, no, I promise I'm not like that anymore. I promise. So.
Well, was the reception, did it meet your expectations? Like, how did it compare with that thought?
Oh, I mean, I honestly, I don't even think I had a bad day this year training for the games. I had so much fun every day, and I was just so happy to be back and thankful. And yeah, I mean, I was back home and with my family, and yeah, I'm really happy to be back here.
Wow,
and I mean that.
Yeah,
I'm not leaving again,
I can see it.
promise.
You know, it's funny because what we were saying about comments is like I even people on your day in the life, and it's like, oh, she's smiling so much or whatever. I'm like, it's still kind of pressure. You know what I mean? Like, well-intentioned
like,
pressure.
To not be happy all
but
the
I
time.
did see it, and just for context, one of my favorite things that's happened in the last I don't know how long is walking into the gym yesterday and you're working out to the Lion King soundtrack.
Oh my gosh!
And I was like, yes, that is legit Haley doing Haley. You know?
It was like not during open gym. There was like a few people in gym. I was like, I have this really hard workout, and I really just want to listen to Disney music.
They were all on board.
Everyone loved it.
And
there
was 2 bangers in a row, and then one came on, and I was like, that's kind of weird. And then he skipped, and I was like, yes. So no, that's fantastic.
Good vibes only around here.
100% good vibes only. Let's I'd love to hear more about Dom because I'm a big fan also, and he's a massive positive impact on Mayhem. But like, what did he bring to your whatever training or preparation or whatever that's unique that you hadn't kind of felt before?
Yeah, so I mean, I met him right before I left, but I was already gone at that point. I was like,
One
bye guys, I'm leaving. So then when I came back, I was like, hey, like you don't owe me anything. You don't have to help me. Like you already have these people, you know, that you're helping train for the games. Blah, blah, blah. He was like, no, like I got you. And that already meant a lot to me. I was like, this dude doesn't have to help me, but he is. So we just kind of worked really well together leading up to the games. And but also like on the mental side of things, like obviously physically I can just go do whatever. I can follow whatever training program like and be fit. But on the mental side of things was the difference for me. Like him just being such a cool dude and be like, bro, like we're just working out. Like I don't care what place you get. I don't care about this or that. Like that was so healing for me to hear, because I'm like, you know, I still want to do good at the games. Like I just had a good semis, but I was trying not to put pressure on myself. But he helped, you know, relieve that and was like, brought the fun out in it. And I laughed all day. Like he would just crack jokes, and it was just, he's just such a good guy. And it's been really healing for me too to have him here. And I'm so pumped to work with him this year. I think we're going to do some good things.
Oh, 100%. So it's funny, like you've got the hard work that you did. We've seen fantastic results, but it's just like, if it's a weird analogy to use, but like in a diet analogy, like, well, I go on maintenance, right? Like, and what are the tools that you use? So how do you take these lessons and like, are there anchor points or ways that you're kind of planning to make sure that you stay on track? Or is it just you surround yourself with the right people and you've made your lessons?
Yeah. I mean, I think for me now, I know myself really well. I know what can trigger me. I know what makes me happy. So I think just staying grounded in like who I am now, and that my identity is not in CrossFit. And just, again, surrounding myself with good people and people that care about you, and just having fun with it, and, you know, just living life. Like, it sounds silly, but it's true. Like, take it for what it is. Like, the good days, the bad days. Like, I learned so many life lessons this year, even outside of CrossFit. But, yeah, and just taking that with me. That's why I feel like I've grown up.
Yeah.
You know, so.
You do. I mean, you seem 10 years older in terms
of
a
little baby
maturity
anymore.
and life experience, right? I actually would love to know, because seriously, I was kind of following along, but like, I don't expect you to post every single thing. Yeah. What were the highlights of like, what were the most unique things you did?
In my year off?
Yeah.
I traveled a ton.
Or even since, like, you know, you travel think it seems like you travel a ton still.
Yeah,
Or like,
I mean, I traveled a ton last year. Experienced a lot of new first things. I did go to Disney World a lot last year, which was fun. I met a lot of cool people too. Yeah, I know I keep saying it, but just like experiencing life, like boyfriends, like all kinds of stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like things that I just never experienced before.
like literally you never made time for dating previously.
No, I literally would think that, you know, going out with my friends or just anything that kept my mind off of CrossFit was like a sin.
Yeah.
Like, no, you're doing something that's going to make you worse. Like you know,
sure.
stay up too late. Like that's it. So I would never do anything. So like last year, like maybe it wasn't the best approach, but I literally just was straight living my life. Just going wherever I wanted, doing whatever I wanted. It was very healing.
I'm so stoked.
Yeah.
Were there other places where you're like, oh, I could see myself here? Or not necessarily from like training and all that kind of stuff. Forget all that.
Like living?
Yeah, just like go to cities and you were like, oh, this is.
I loved LA.
Really?
I loved LA. I spent quite a bit of time out there last year. I loved it.
I can see you in LA.
I could see it too, but I don't want to be so far away from my family.
Yeah.
And again, I'm really happy here. I'm not leaving for a while. But no, I loved LA. I would totally live there one day.
You brought it up, and I've seen you avoid this question before. So, is there a boyfriend now?
No.
Hard no.
No. Hard no.
But there have. Okay, so you had some experiences, and again, that's good.
Life lessons.
Yeah.
My face is probably getting red.
For better and worse, we won't throw whoever it is under the bus. But still, I love that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like.
Yeah, I just got to experience stuff, and you know, like again, meet new friends, meet new people, and yeah, it was very healing, and I wouldn't change any of it.
Yeah.
But lots of lessons.
It's sort of outside of those that time period that we're talking about, but I saw you just got to go to Peru with Mayhem Mission.
Yeah.
That's
that
awesome.
was life-changing.
I really want to go do that. Tell me about it.
So literally the week I moved back to Cookeville, Brian and Sonia asked me, and I think they thought I was going to say no. And I was like, actually, yeah, because I had just gone through some other stuff at that point. I was like, I need to go experience like something else and see how good that we have it, like on a serious note. So I said, yeah. I was like, I'm going. So we went a couple weeks after the games, and it was truly life-changing. Like, a lot of these people don't have anything, and the way that they love each other and take care of each other, it's like, wow, like us here, like we fight over everything, like over material things, and these people have nothing, and they have so much love and so much hope. And it was just so eye-opening, because it's like, wow, we have it so good, and sometimes we act the way that we act, you know, and these people are just so grateful, so gracious, and it was really healing for my heart. And I want to go on another one, because it was so good for me. I honestly think it did more good for me than I, could help them, but which sounds terrible, but
no, I think that's the main takeaway for a lot of people with service like that.
Yeah. So I wish I could just help them so much. And I'm also trying to be fluent in Spanish now.
Ooh,
so
bueno.
I've been trying to learn Spanish. So, but yeah, I definitely want to go on another one. And I went to Brazil the week before that too. So I was in South America for 3 weeks.
Oh, good for you.
It was a long time, but I enjoyed it.
And just so I don't mess this all up, you guys went to Iquitos, or did you go somewhere else too? Or
well, we went to Lima. That's
just like fly in
capital, and we spent like a day or two there, and then we went to Iquitos.
Okay, and it's an orphanage. You got to kind of break it down for people, like what you actually did.
So we went to like different little towns, like where people lived, and they have like the mission trips like build these little churches that they go. So we would go for a service and play with the kids. And there was one day that us girls went and painted nails and bracelets, and you could tell like they just don't get to do much stuff like that. And it just, my heart thinking about it now, but it was just the best day, and I will never forget that. So just like getting to play with kids and just, spend time with them, and they love us. Like they love us being there. And just doing other things to help the community. And it was, I can't wait to go again.
Just really kind of pouring yourself out into service.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm jealous. And to your point, like if I can get my kids down there before they graduate high school, it's just such a slap in the face of perspective. Yeah,
there's a ton of kids down there, and they don't run around with phones, and they don't have social media. Like they're just happy. They're playing outside, and they're just, it was so good for me. And there's one next year after the games. It's in Togo, I think, Africa.
Oh yeah.
I really want to go to that one.
That would be amazing. Mm-hmm. can I ask is, I know it has been in the past, how big is faith a factor in your life right now? Like, what's your relationship there?
Yeah, I mean, it's something that I've grown to over the last year get back into, because when I was really going through like dark days, I just kind of like shut everything out. You know, just none of that was anything to me. But as I've started to heal and stuff, I've opened my heart back up and slowly like getting back into it.
Love that.
Yeah, it's just a journey, and you know, it's got to come on your own time.
Yeah.
So yeah, I obviously haven't really talked about it much, but yeah, over the last year, I've definitely opened my heart back up, and you know, surround myself with people that, you know, like here.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Going on a mission probably is like a heavy dose
oh
too,
my gosh.
right? Just
Yeah.
spray with a fire hose.
That was really good for me.
Yeah.
That was good.
I'm so glad to hear that. It's funny. I'm really happy that we've made it this far without talking about the CrossFit Games or goals or
'cause
whatever,
so much more,
right? But for your professional career with CrossFit, are you, at this point, are you even like thinking about the 2025 season? Not whether you're going to do it or not, but like, do you feel that coming, or is it just sort of what you do now? Does that make sense?
I mean, I don't feel it coming in a bad way. I definitely feel it coming. And back to Dom, like we sat down the other day and, you know, wrote down our whole schedule of what next season looks like and strength cycle. So that had me really excited. So in a way, I am really excited to do it because he's going to help me, and, you know, we're going to work together and do all these cycles. So, I mean, I feel it coming, but not in a bad way. And I'm excited for it.
Good. Yeah, I guess the second part of what I'm trying to ask is, CrossFit can be dramatic. I know you may not believe that, right?
Yeah.
But there's so many questions, and last year was a really difficult year for the CrossFit Games. Do you get caught up in like, how's the season going to look like, and how, you know, all that, or you just kind of do what you need to do to be prepared?
I just kind of do what I need to do, and like part of taking the year off is like showed me that it's just CrossFit. We're just working out. Like, life is so much bigger. So like I had multiple people at the games come up to me and be like, you know, after what happened, like it's terrible. Like, it's so terrible. But they would come up to me and be like, oh, like, how do you feel like this happened on like your comeback year, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, honestly, if anything, like my year off showed me that this doesn't matter. Like, someone tragically lost their life. Like, I don't care about my placing right now. Like,
Right.
Life is so much bigger than CrossFit. I do not care. It has nothing to do with me. So like my year off gave me that perspective as well.
Yeah.
So.
And by the way, Lazar dying on any other year that wasn't my comeback year would still be just as tragic. What a kind of a weird question, you know?
Yeah,
like,
you know, like it's not about me. Like,
right.
you know? So, but yeah, it just gave me that perspective as well. Like, life is so much bigger.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
And with this version of Haley, I don't know, like interviews and stuff, I loved hearing you say, oh yeah, I'm going to like Olivia Rodrigo, and I'm going to like, I'm doing these really cool things. Are you finding a way? Well, I guess we're in the off season arguably, right? But do you think you'll be able to kind of keep that balance and
Yes,
yeah.
I will not ever compete if I feel like how I did before. I just will not allow myself to ever get to that place again. So I think to keep that from happening, like I have to keep stuff like that in. And honestly, like I had so much more balance this year, and obviously like I have to work really hard all the time. Like that's just the reality of it. Like I can't just skirt the line and, you know, diddy-dally around. Like you have to work hard, but there's a lot of ways to incorporate balance, and I learned how to do that this year, and, you know, hang out with my friends outside of the gym, which I wouldn't do before. So there's just like small things where you can still like be on top of your nutrition and sleep enough and train enough, but you can still have balance. So yeah, I definitely will keep incorporating balance because it's important.
Love it. Can't wait to watch the journey. It's such a joy to have you back. Just even to see
I'm really happy to be back. Hopefully everyone here is happy to have me back.
Everyone, I think you know that 1,000%, and everyone.
I'm not leaving, I promise.
Everyone in the internet world is happy to see you as well. We intentionally cut these off short just to keep people wanting more, but I feel like we covered a lot of bases, and I'm, as always, like super grateful for you being so open, wide open book.
Yeah, I'm glad I could finally sit down and share my story back here.
100%. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.